Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Shovel Knight Specter of Torment. In the last part, we climbed the Tower of Fate going through our final proper level, and now all that awaits us is Endgame. The final level itself is all that remains, and, well, if you've played any of the other expansions up to this point, it's gonna look very familiar, to say the least. If you check your totals on the gear screen, you should have 98 out of 100 red skulls going into this level, because the final two are both here. And in the case you have excess gold and there's still things you haven't purchased yet, be it any wisps you missed in levels you don't want to go in to go get, any armors, any upgrades for your sub-weapons, go do that now, because they might come in handy here in the final level. So, this is probably the only level that is pretty much wholesale ripped from one playthrough to the next, largely because it's mostly there for tension before the final boss. We got the usual Zelda tile segment here where the tiles of the room just come alive and try to hit you. A benefit that Specter Knight has that the other two sort of have, but not to the same extent, is you can actually dash slash through these blocks to help get around. I think Shovel Knight could pogo off them, but it just is so iffy that I don't like doing it. And well, meanwhile, Plague Knight's main combat doesn't really have a lot to do with how they impact enemies. It's largely just how they impact themselves. Now, the slightly annoying thing, you, in order to get 100%, have to take those last two skulls that we're going to get and turn them in. But when we grab them, they don't save your data yet. The data doesn't save until you've actively beaten the stage. So if you want to see the 100% marking on the credits, you do need to do this stage twice. With that said, here's what the last two skulls are, and when we grab these, we're actually going to jump cut back to the Tower of Fate hub area after I've beaten the game, so we can showcase the reward for getting all 100 of them. Yeah, and there we go. So let's go take a look and take those over to Red really quick. Get an extra 1,000 gold along the way. That's the last one. Well done. As thanks, I prepared a little surprise. Follow me once more to the tower depths. Would you look at this rubble? What possibly could have happened here? Who could say? Indeed. Well, here's what I found. I want you to have it. The Donovan set. Adopt the visage of your former self. Impeccable, isn't it? Really, it's like it was made just for you. I found these alongside it. Not quite magical enough for my taste, hardly worthy of being called a curio. And we once again get the cow drops. Thank you, Red. The pleasure's all mine. Both of us might be a touch too sentimental for undead life. I don't know what you're plotting against the Enchantress, but be careful, Specter Knight. I really like that scene. But for doing that, we actively get the ability to take on the former Specter Knight while he was alive. The caltrops, I think, are the bigger get here because you can use those in New Game Plus to pretty good effect against certain boss fights, especially if they stick towards the ground a lot more often. But the Donovan set has its own neat little visual flair to itself. Like, I think while you're in the cold shoulder, there's a chance that you can just effectively do the Thriller dance with Specter Knight, and I think that's especially really funny. With that said, the Donovan set and the caltrops themselves are what will boost you up from 98% to 100% if you finish the game as we were going into this level to begin with. If you're missing something else, it's probably the cold shoulder, so go talk to the lady in green just next to the juice bar, and you'll probably get that if you haven't already. Oh, it's you. Have you come all this way to report your progress? Where is my 8th knight?
None of that matters anymore. Prepare to face your demise, Shield Knight. Your treachery ends here.
My treachery? I granted you new life. But now you intend to take mine? Perhaps showing you mercy was a mistake. One I will not repeat. Honestly, Specter Knight might have the easiest fight against the Enchantress in all 3 campaigns we've done thus far, only because his moveset, thanks to the diagonal dash slashes, means you have good ways to reach her when she's directly above you outside of jump slashes, and even then, when she's dashing back and forth, you have a good way to hit her on top of that. With that said, when she's not bouncing from the top or the bottom of the screen with diagonal dashes, she's firing projectiles directly at you that can go at various angles. She'll generate fire from the lower part of the screen that will then move upwards, creating sand blocks you can stand on. And she can also fire fireballs from the bottom of the screen directly upwards to destroy those platforms. When she uses the fire on the actual platform below you, that's where the fight gets a little more dangerous, because for one thing, those last a while. But when that fire eventually goes out, those platforms are just gone, so you do slowly lose ground in this fight. And since Specter Knight destroys dirt by jumping off of it, if you're not careful about this fight as you go, you do lose a lot of ground very quickly and can very easily put yourself into some bad situations involving the bottomless pit. With that said, because of his moveset and curio set all the same, I do think this is the easiest Enchantress fight, at least of the campaigns we've done thus far. It's been a while since I played through King Knight, so I forget exactly how it goes there, to be honest at this point. I think that's the only campaign in this entire game I've technically only played once. At least at this point. I'm probably going to do some practice runs before I eventually get to it. Weakling. Reese, my child, come to me. Yes, my queen. Specter Knight has lost faith in our power. Let us show him your perfect self.
Release Reese! Haven't you done enough?
I'd give anything to serve you. Do with me what you will. My child, drink deep of the darkness. Reveal your full potential. Final boss of Specter of Torment is Nightmare Reese, and you're doing this fight entirely on the rail grinding spots. And something to note, if you die in this fight exclusively, you actually don't lose money because you'd have no way to actively regain it. The rails we're grinding on, I think, are slightly randomly generated. The top is usually better for getting speed up and actually attacking the head, but the bottom is usually safer and has better ways to dash across things. Attack-wise, Reese can fire projectiles out of his face. He can set fire to the rails and let her have his health bar. After a couple of hits, he will dash across the screen, which you can actually get a really good charge slash in with if you're good about timing it. But also, he can just have flames get thrown up in the air and come back down. This fight's a little dangerous just because of the ever-present threat of instant death below you. But I think it's a very exhilarating fight that can be very fun to go through correctly. The only real rough time is when the rails don't really behave with you in terms of placement, so spaces between your attack phases can take a while. On a first playthrough, this was probably my least favorite final boss across the 4 campaigns, but now it's probably overall my favorite because I think it does a good job of revisiting a mechanic that I did think was underutilized in the main campaign to begin with. This is kind of why I wish we had a few more instances of this throughout the playthrough, because I feel like this could have been a very interesting thing to have a couple of boss fights themed around throughout the entire game, especially if they did good about having each boss have a very unique attack pattern. Also, slight photosensitivity warning coming up.
Stay back! You've taken all that I have. I will not serve you a moment longer.
Fair enough. Reese has proven a loyal servant. He'll be the perfect final knight of the Order of No Quarter.
No! Leave him! I will serve as your 8th knight. Take me instead.
Oh? Now you are ready to bow before my might.
I am yours to command. But first, the final act of my own volition.
Reese has played his part well. With the power of the locket squandered on this whelp, your life is forfeit. Now you belong to me.
Donovan?
Henceforth and forever you will serve me in the Lich Yard. A fitting post, don't you think?
There's no hope in stopping her. The Order in No Quarter will sweep through the land without mercy. She's too strong. The strength of her former self gives me hope she can be reached. A fool's errand. She will destroy you as she did me, and show no remorse. I have no choice but to serve. I'm now bound to her, perhaps forever. Then maybe we shall cross paths again. Keep her safe, Donovan. Dark times await us all.
Oh, that's Specter of Torment. This is a complicated campaign to me because I think mechanically and narratively it's overall my favorite of the three, but it's weirdly the black sheep of all four of the campaigns in a lot of very minor regards with how directly story-focused it is. There's no real bonus stages to go to, there's no world map, and also the cast is comparatively very small because you're just stuck in the Tower of Fate the entire time. I think if this game actively had a world map with some bonus stages you could go to, it would be a lot more interesting and easier to recommend to some people, I think. But at the same time, I get maybe why they didn't want to do that, because for one thing, tragic prequel story. Mind you, King of Cards is also a prequel story, but very different tone with how it tells its story. And they were also probably a little stuck in a corner where if they wanted to maybe have you go to any level in any order still for this campaign, the world map probably would have gone against that. Especially if you still wanted to use the Tower of Fate as a base, as the Tower of Fate is just permanently on like the eastern side of the map, no matter what you do across the other three campaigns. So unless they did a thing where like the mirror took you to a warp point in the middle of a map that you could then go to all 8 directions from, maybe, but at the same time that would be pretty clunky. It just leads to some weird notes in this campaign ultimately. But I still really like this. It is overall my favorite of the 4 campaigns because I enjoy how action-packed it is, even compared to main Shovel of Hope, which is already pretty action-packed. The tool set's really good, the curios are really good, the upgrade path is pretty easy to get through, and there's plenty of money of this one. But that could be a downgrade for some people, admittedly, because sometimes the resource management and dying a lot and figuring out what to spend your little remaining gold on is a lot more important than getting a lot of gold to spend all at once, because we definitely finished this campaign with more money than we did the other 2 campaigns I've already done as LPs. And from my memory of King of Cards, I'll probably get nowhere near as much in that campaign in comparison. If you want to play the game, good news, it's basically on everything too. I don't think I've directly talked about it, but I like to put the consoles a game is available on at the time I do the LP at least in the playlist title. Like I'll do like parentheses NES, SNES, Genesis, blah 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 blah. I think out of every game I've done, barring doing Tetris once upon a time in a one-off video in like the first year of the channel, I think the Shovel Knight playthroughs have the longest list of consoles they're on out of any game I've done. It's really funny. Mind you, not many things are on like the Amazon Fire TV, for instance. Also, this is easily the best performance I've put in, gameplay-wise, across the 4 campaigns thus far, and given my memory of how King of Cards goes, it'll probably be just as such there because there's a lot of ample opportunities for death in that campaign. Honestly, it's a minor thing, but I really do appreciate when games give you totals like this, just to like showcase, okay, this is maybe your strongest section, this was your weakest section, room to improve in case you want to go back and play it again. Plus, seeing how high the numbers get with like total haul and all that is really neat. There's the 98% I got on the first run of this stage, where I had to collect the 2 red skulls, but here I am, having replayed the stage again afterwards, getting the 100% marking after getting the Donovan cloak as well as the caltrops. Kind of annoying to replay the final stage like that, but as you see in the time played difference between the pre-jump cut we just did and post-jump cut, it's not like it takes a long time to begin with. The final stage is easily the shortest stage in any of the campaigns, barring little joke optional stages and all that jazz.
Your boy's a handful, Lewin. But he will be safe. That's a promise I can now keep. Well, one last reverie.
And you simply made off with his boots? Incredible! That's one way to make a grand escape.
I was reckless in my youth, much like my own son. Brash, naive. It's a wonder I've lived to tell such tales.
Nonsense! We too shall prosper for 100 years, and your boy takes after his father.
He does. Donovan, I've been meaning to give you something.
Is this a locket?
I worry about him, Donovan. He's grown so fast. If fate should claim me before my time, he'll have no one to protect him from his own flights of fancy. This is an old family keepsake. You are family to me, and I would hope you'd be family to Reese.
Lewin, I would lay down my life to save his. I promise. So take a moment and think back to the ending of Plague of Shadows during the Specter Knight section. His ending is looking in the chest in the Lich Yard and crying out in pain because Shovel Knight took that amulet, because that's the phasing amulet. Oh, ooh, I feel bad for spamming that thing so badly. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great night. Take care. And I'll see you guys next Let's Play, whatever that may be. See you guys then.